Good morning, everybody. Kind of took a hiatus from YouTube, kind of right in the thick of dealing with what happened to me and all the crap that I discovered, and took down the videos about hospitals involved and all the shit that I found. And so looks like I'm at a dead end, trying to fight these guys in court. They're screaming statute of limitations, and then I got a bunch of lazy ass lawyers that I've talked to that if it ain't a slam dunk, they don't want to deal with it. And so, yeah, if I was brain dead or died, then they'd take the case. So, anyway, I'm going to pray and ask God to be here, and we'll kind of go from there. So, Heavenly Father, Lord, you know all things. You know that I'd be dealing with all of this today. You knew this 5 years ago and 5 months ago, and you let this happen to me. And so all I can do is trust in you, Father, and look to you to see which way you want me to go and what I can do now. So we just pray, Lord, that you're here with me and here with everybody else. And I know I'm not the only person in the world dealing with injustice and having been damaged and hurt by these medical people. And we just pray, Lord, that you continue just to provide our needs, what we need when we need it, and comfort us and help us, Lord, and guide us through taking nothing and liking it. So that's what I'm having to do. I'm having to take nothing and like it. And so help me, Lord, be able to do that. Pray all these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Yeah, I'm having to take nothing and like it. God let me find all this crap out, and then after I have them all red-handed, all the evidence to prove they broke every kind of HIPPA law, they violated every state law regarding my records, they've trashed my civil rights as a patient. My current healthcare provider has kicked me to the curb because they were defending their buddies, the hospital that they work out of. The ones that contributed to me having three heart attacks in 6 weeks. So they've picked the side that they're on, and it sure ain't mine. So I'm having to take nothing and like it. Man, I was really hoping and praying that God was going to give me my camels back like he did Job, but apparently he's like, no. I'm going to have to do this the hard way, and the hard way is to just sit back and trust him. It's like, hey man, I've given you nothing for a long period of time. You're good at dealing with nothing. So I'm just going to ask you to continue a little further down the road with, it's like the world's telling me to eat shit and die. That's what it does. It's what it does to people. Our system, and I mean, you name it, Social Security, disability, take nothing and die. I mean, eat shit and die. That's how much they care about. But the good news is we got President Trump back. They're all winning, and we're all scoring points towards being free from the evil that's taken over our country. So I'm enjoying that. Quick note on the aircraft crashes. I mean, oh gee whiz. What happened in DC was a total cluster. And I'm sorry, let's just say the RJ crew was blindsided, period. Totally blindsided. They had no idea where that chopper was. They're on, the military's on UHF, regular air air traffic's on VHF. We cannot hear military. We can hear the tower transmitting on both frequencies, but we can't hear the response from the military. I personally have had that situation at least a dozen times in my career. I've got over 23,000 hours of flight time. I have come into controlled airspace with military aircraft in that airspace, and all you hear is the traffic. Hey, where are you at, helicopter? And then we don't hear the helicopter's response. Or, those guys had no clue where that chopper was. None. No location at all. None. Zero. Zilch. And the call to the chopper by the tower, I'm extremely disappointed in. They said RJ traffic over a bridge. And I mean, you have written, instead of the call should have been, if the call should have been Pat 25 traffic 12 o'clock at your 12 to 1 o'clock, 5 miles at 1200, circling from runway 1 to land runway 33. Do you have the traffic in sight? That call was never made. And so the guys in the RJ flew a perfect approach. Perfect. I've flown sidestep, circle, visual approaches hundreds of times. I've done them IMC, and you drop down to 400 feet and then you circle to land to another runway at 400 feet. IMC, right at minimums, I had the tops of the clouds hitting the top of the airplane at 400. I've done it visually in the daytime. I've done it visually at night. And the RJ crew, it sounded to me like the FO was on the radio, the first officer. They're both, there's pilot, co-pilot. The first officer is the co-pilot in the right seat. And the pilot was out the front windshield, looking at the airfield, doing a visual. That's what he's supposed to do. He's taking a quick peek back at his airspeed. He's taking a quick peek at his VSI, his visual, his vertical, in this case, descent rate. He's looking at his airspeed. He's visually outside the front windshield, looking at that runway, looking for the runway. And they were out over land, across the river, away on the other side of the airfield. And if there was a chopper at their 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock and low, that chopper would have blended in with all the lights on the ground. Easy. And it is just absolutely dumbfounding to me what happened. Just like everything that could have went wrong, it was like wrong place, wrong time. RJ crew, when they got up close to the runway, they rolled into a left turn towards the runway, which put the first officer on the right seat, wing up, and he's not looking down for a helicopter. But on that visual approach, the first officer's job is to be inside the cockpit, looking at the gauges, looking at the airspeed, looking at the VSI, looking at if they had anything dialed in for that runway, looking for a course needle or looking for a glide slope. Or the first officer is inside the plane, making sure that the airplane's not going to fall out of the sky speed-wise, and monitoring the VSI, all that stuff. And so I can't fault the RJ crew, not one bit. They got blindsided, literally blindsided. The chopper crew, they're on a check ride. I don't care about any of the politics involved, but they're on a check ride. I have been on, I don't know how many check rides. I mean, tons of them. I can't even count them all. Tons of check rides, tons. Where in an aircraft, the pilot is in the left seat, and choppers, the pilot, the captain, is in the right seat. So on my check rides, I've had a guy, and even in the simulator, the guy in the right seat administering the check ride is actually busier than I am flying the plane. All I got to do is nail my course, my altitude, my airspeeds. Piece of cake. Normal flying. Never rattled me to be on a check ride. I'm just going to fly like I normally fly. Not a big deal. Just sit back, relax, have fun. I mean, you're flying around. You're in no hurry to get anywhere. And so the guy administering the check ride was busier. He's dialing up the approach. He's talking on the radio. He's supposed to be looking out the window, but I can guarantee you that during a check ride, that guy in the right seat has got his head in the cockpit more than I do. And I mean, if we're doing a check ride, it's usually you're practicing IFR. I've been on night check rides, day check rides, IMC check rides, clear day, pretty beautiful VFR day check rides, and the check ride is to see if we're proficient for operating in worst case scenario as far as the weather is concerned. And so I think that was what was going on in the chopper. So from what I understand, they're saying that they were night vision goggles. I've never flown with night vision goggles. I got offered a job to do that one time, and it was flying air tractors, which is an ag plane, a spray plane, right? Turbine powered. They had titanium pilot tubs. They were bulletproof. And they wanted me to go to South America and crop dust on the side of cliffs out in the middle of nowhere in the dark. I said, no habla español, señor. Did not want to go to South America and crop spray at night on sides of cliffs in the dark, trying to eradicate whatever they were growing down there. So I turned that job down. I actually got offered that job 3 times, and I said, no. No, I don't. No habla español, señor. Yeah, you crash and you get shot down, crash and burn down there. They ain't coming to look for you. And it ain't gonna be pretty when the guys on the ground find you, and then do what they're gonna do to you. So let's get back to the check ride thing. Chopper guy in the left seat administering the check ride. I guarantee. Well, the airspace off to his left, to the north. That's a solid red block over the White House. That is a zero no fly zone. You take off out of Reagan north, you are vectored this way. You take off runway 1 right towards the right towards the Washington Monument, right towards the White House. You are 99.9% of the time veered off to the left to clear that airspace. Right as you rotate, you don't cross the river. You turn to the left to stay out of that restricted airspace. So they were southbound. So me sitting in that left seat of the helicopter, I would have never been looking out the left side of the aircraft for traffic, nor would I have been looking straight ahead. So I think that the bridge that they called is I can't remember the name of the bridge, but it's after a president. The Wilson Bridge. I don't think it clicked with the crew of the Black Hawk. The Wilson Bridge. There are bridges all up and down that river. It just didn't click. And again, the call from the tower to the chopper should have been Pat 25 traffic 12 to 1 o'clock at 1200 descending. for the circling approach to runway 33. Never gave Pat 25 a real description of where that traffic was that they should be looking for. And so there was another aircraft as you're looking out the helicopter straight, and on the pilot side, you can see down the approach course to runway 1. They're parallel runway 1, opposite direction. And if the RJ was over to their right, over land at a lower altitude, they would have seen the aircraft behind them on that final approach for runway 1. I don't think they would have saw the RJ. And again, that left seat chopper guy was doing a check ride. You could see on their flight path where they were looks like they were following waypoints, just meandering. And they had been maintaining their 200-foot ceiling. So another theory too is that possibly the lady pilot flying the helicopter, mistook the departing traffic off of runway 1 for the RJ that they were supposed to pass behind. And you can see that they kind of, at the last minute, kind of veered towards the airfield and went up about 100 feet in altitude. And that, to me, whenever I have another jet aircraft flying above me and I'm flying underneath their wake turbulence, I mean, it's a wake turbulence that just follows the aircraft. I instinctively would pull back on the stick a little bit, or the yoke, to gain a little bit of altitude in case I came in contact with their wake turbulence. Because the wake turbulence will move. It'll blow in the direction that the wind's blowing. And the wind was out of the northwest, which would have blown the wake turbulence from the departing RJ on runway 1 towards the river. So and then they turned a little bit slightly towards the airfield to kind of more nose in case they were going to encounter wake turbulence. So they turned towards the airport for a little bit there on the last bit of their track, and then they rose, and they were on a check ride. I've been on many of those. Everybody's in the cockpit. I mean, you're not doing a check ride to fly VFR. You're doing a check ride to fly worst case scenario, and chopper military is low altitude NVGs. That's the worst case scenario for them. Low altitude, night vision goggles. And for fixed wing guys, it's just IMC. I mean, instrument meteorological conditions. So I can see where the instructor running the check ride in the chopper would have been more focused in the cockpit. And I'm sure he's taking a quick peek around, but where that RJ was straight dead ahead of him at a low, I mean, that RJ was at very, very low altitude. They were 500 to 400, I mean, descending quickly for that runway. And I flew pipeline patrol for 10 years. And at 500 feet, and I mean, I had a low altitude waiver to 500. And I always flew at least 700, 800, a little higher, because I could see better. I could see out ahead of me better. I mean, it made that much of a huge difference. And so I've never scud run at 200 feet. So, I mean, at 200, I mean, holy crap. I got a story real quick. I was landing DFW flying, I think I was in a Caravan at the time. And they brought me in real low from the south. It was southwest coming, and it was VFR. It was daylight. My flight had been delayed. Normally, I'd be getting in there with freight early in the morning before daylight. And this flight morning had broke, and it was daylight. And they had me down at 1,000 AGL. above the ground level. Coming over Fort Worth, there was some other traffic that they had me underneath. And normally I would come in there at least 2,500, 3,000. And then I'd intercept the localizer and the glide slope for my runway that I'd land on. But I was so low, they cleared me for a visual approach. I never had the, I told them, I don't have DFW airport in sight yet. And I was probably about 7 or 8 miles out. I go, I don't have the airfield in sight. And they told me, continue present heading, intercept the localizer, for, it's the far west runway at DFW. And so, even in the daytime at 1,000 feet, I could not see DFW airport because of all the city. And the runways were, I was coming at it at an angle. So when you get lined up with them, yeah, you can see the airport. So, I never had the airfield until I actually intercepted the localizer, and oh, there it is, in broad daylight. So the low altitude thing, I mean, I can't imagine flying helicopters at 200 feet. I never liked helicopters. I don't like that crap swinging around my head. What if I survive the impact with the ground? Now I got to worry about getting mincemeated by the blades. I had some buddies of mine that wrapped themselves around an oak tree on the top of a mountain in solid fog, and the impact with the tree and the terrain did not kill them. It was the rotor blades disintegrating and then cutting them into pieces. So I've never liked helicopters. There's way too many Jesus bolts on them. Any one of them fail, you're going to go see them. So I'm a fixed wing guy, and I think helicopters are cool. I've actually got to fly a couple of them a few times, and I was like, I need to stay away from this because I know I'm going to get addicted to it. But it's too damn dangerous, and I'm just not going to stick my neck out, literally stick my neck out flying a helicopter. But back to the crew and the chopper. It makes sense to me that they would turn towards runway 1. The departing aircraft just left. They actually technically did fly behind that aircraft. They pointed it towards the airfield just a little bit, a few degrees to the right. And I think they pulled back on the stick to climb just a little bit in case they encounter wake turbulence, is my opinion. So tower guy, I hated flying Northeast Corridor. Fuck. I hated going Northeast Corridor when I was flying. The airspace just gets narrower and narrower and narrower and skinnier and skinnier and skinnier all up through that, and those controllers, I had a trip up there in a King Air 90, which was a puddle jumper. I mean, little tiny twin engine turbine. And I got up there in that airspace, and man, they just treated me like a freaking redheaded stepchild. And they will just rattle off as fast as they can rattle off and shorten the communication as much as they can possibly shorten it. And just rattle it off that quick because they have so much traffic. And I remember telling the controller, if you'll talk slower, I'll get this done for you, sir, way faster. I flat told them that on the radio. I said, you know what? It's a nice, pretty day. I'm just going to cancel IFR and go VFR. And they're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. And then they started treating me with a little bit of damn respect in a little tiny airplane. And I hated going up there. I took my old damn boss to Dulles, I don't know how many times. Took him to Martha's Vineyard, Teterboro, Boston, all the way up and down the coast of the Northeast coast. And I hated flying into that airspace because I knew they were going to trash me because I was a little tiny airplane. And I always made sure I had plenty of gas because they would vector you around to make way for all the other big stuff. And to be honest, if the weather was good, screw them. I'm going VFR, have my 1200 transponder code on. I don't even have to talk to them on the radio. and they could vector the traffic around me. And that's how I was able to get in and out of where I needed to go. And you know, VFR flight following instead of an instrument flight plan. But so the tower, that guy was just overloaded, just flat out overloaded. And they said they need, you know, normally they'd have two controllers in the tower, one for chopper traffic and the other. And I just sat there listening to this and watching that radar and watching those two aircraft converge. I mean, the red lights and warning signals were going off in my head when he called the traffic for Pat 25 the first time. It's like, no. It's not. He should have said, Pat 25, traffic 12 to 1 o'clock at 5 miles or 6 miles, whatever the range was, giving them the altitude 1200, descending, circling approach to runway 33. But he didn't, never did. So I think it's I think the RJ crew is totally not guilty of anything except doing what they were doing, and there was miscommunication on the part of the controller on identifying the traffic, specifying, and then the helo crew. I think that was just a standard, and the call that they're making, they just blurted it out, and I think they completely and totally mistook the traffic, and technically, in the end, the NTSB and the FAA should blame all three: tower, RJ crew, and the chopper crew. And here's why. There have been instances where they've had a mid-air collision in instrument meteorological conditions in the clouds. And by the regs, even if you're in the clouds and you can't see the nose of the plane out in front of you, you're still required to look out the window for other traffic. So in the end, I think they're going to wind up tagging the RJ crew for failure to see and avoid another aircraft. They're going to tag the chopper crew with the same thing, failure to see and avoid another aircraft. And then there's going to be they're going to tag the controller, and then they're going to make recommendations as far as the airspace use or standard call outs or something. So I think all three of them are going to get tagged in the end. But the Lear 55, holy crap, that thing turned into a lawn dart. And I flew air ambulance 2 years, flying Citation jet and flying King Air 90, small little King Air. That was our backup bird. If the jet was down, Citations are we affectionately call them near jets, not Lear jets. Because they're basically a twin-engine Cessna propeller-driven aircraft with little GEs on them, little GE, can't remember the name of them, little General Electric turbofans, jets. And under horsepowered, but man, they fly great. They're slower as molasses, and they have a nice wing on them. They fly great. They fly like a Cessna, twin Cessna. Very stable aircraft, and but we call them near jets because they have nowhere near the performance as a Lear. But I'm still waiting to see if they're finding pieces of that aircraft between the airfield it departed from and the crash site. And several of the ring cam and dash cam videos clearly show that this aircraft was already on fire before it hit the ground. And there's one angle of, I don't know if they had an oxygen tank explode. I don't know if they had a catastrophic failure of an engine, which may have severed the control surfaces or the cables to the control surfaces. I'm not for sure what the systems on a Lear are. I don't know if it's hydraulic controls or if they got cables in them. but something catastrophic happened, which affected the flight controls, the horizontal stabilizer, because the aircraft, I mean, you could actually see it as we're descending, actually went even more vertical. I mean, it was already vertical coming down, but the last minute, it actually pointed even more straight down before it impacted the terrain. So I'm watching that, you know, that's catastrophic. I mean, I sucked the bird in the left engine departing one morning, East Texas, in the Citation. And I mean, I was about just right after I rotated. I mean, I wasn't 100 feet off the ground and sucked the bird through the left engine. And that airplane climbed straight out, went through all the memory items, went through the checklist, went around the pattern, no issues. Airplane flew great on one engine, came in and landed. They decided to send the King Air out, transport the patient to Dallas, and I'm trying to remember. I know we had an engine. The maintenance came out with another engine and had that engine swapped that night, and then we flew the aircraft back the next day back to our home base in Dallas. So that's the only thing I've ever had in that Citation. Very reliable aircraft, and I didn't have any other issues at all with that airplane, except for that one time sucking the bird in the engine. And man, you could smell it. And that was the engine that's got all the environmental, all the heat and cooling and fresh air intake for the cockpit. And man, you could smell roasted bird and feathers big time in that thing when that happened. So we immediately got that engine shut down and made the pattern and came back in and landed immediately. But so there's been a lot going on with aviation, and so I'm at 31 minutes here. So I took all the videos down about the shit concerning what happened to me, and I'm not looking at I don't. It's not over yet, but I can't see a way. I've spoken to 2 different jughead lawyers that they don't want to work, and I get it. It's going to cost them money, but apparently I'm going to have to sit here and take nothing and like it and let these jokers get away with it. And in the meantime, my current healthcare provider has kicked me to the curb. So I'm up here in Alaska. God forbid something really happened to me catastrophic. I really don't have a place to go right now for heart care. And there's no other facility in the Anchorage area that I know of that can perform catheterization procedures or anything else. So they have a monopoly here. And I talked to a guy yesterday that's got heart issues, and he's a little different situation than me, but he's telling me they've treated him like dog crap. And I'm not the only one. So I don't know where that's all going to go, but all I can do is sit back and trust God and let him have it. And yeah, I was hoping and praying that my being out was going to be over with, but it's not. I'm going to have to continue dealing with it. So, yeah, God bless everybody. It's unfortunate what happened with the aviation stuff, and I have not mentioned Trump yet, but yeah, thank God that we have him back in office, and I'm praying all the time for him and his crew, and for what they're it's enormous what they're trying to overcome. And it's like I've run into the exact same thing in the medical industry. They are all liars, thieves, and cheaters, and cover for each other, just like the Democratic Party. I mean, to tell you, I'm dealing with the medical side of things that it's like mirroring. It's the same crap, the same evil, greedy crap that I mean, it's taken over our government. And so I don't know how I can fight this. I really wish I can find a good attorney, conservative Christian attorney it's not a fate of the liberal court system in Seattle, but they are. They're a corrupt liberal leftist state, and Alaska is about half as bad. We got a bunch of, well, look at Murkowski. She's the biggest rhino there is, and she's supposed to be a Republican representing this state, so she's not. So we're all dealing with a bunch of shit, and all we can do is trust in God, and you know, a lot of Christians just lay down and take it, and just, you know, turn the other cheek, and don't. It sucks being one of the people that God has called to stand up and fight. But you know what? I signed up for it. So did the disciples. They signed up for it. And Jesus told them straight up, they're going to kill you over me. So at least they're not doing that to me. Not yet. They haven't. They're, you know, I guess, like Job, he said, yeah, you can do anything you want to him, but you can't kill him. But I was a little pissed off and a little disappointed in God, and I'm human. You know, how come you let Job have his camel's back and you're not letting me have mine? And so I'm been having a hard time swallowing that, but that's what I got to do. And so if that's what God's called me to do, then that's what I got to do. So I'm going to get off here. God bless everybody, and I'll talk to you later.